Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're getting into something really fundamental, inner conflict, how we deal with those struggles inside.
Yeah, that's something everyone faces, right?
Absolutely. And our guide for this is Sultram Alion's book, Feeding Your Demons, Ancient Wisdom for Resolving Inner Conflict.
Aliena has such an interesting background. She trained as a Tibetan Buddhist nun, then, returned her vows, became a mother.
Right, and that life experience led her to rediscover these incredible teachings from Machig Labdrun, an 11th century Tibetan yogini.
hmm And what Alioni does so brilliantly is take this ancient wisdom and make it incredibly practical for, our modern lives.
Exactly. It bridges that gap. And the core idea, it's pretty radical, actually.
It really is.
Instead of fighting our inner demons, the addictions, self-hate, perfectionism, and anger, all that stuff.
Things we usually try to push away.
Yeah. Allium says we should understand them and get this, feed them.
It sounds backwards at first, doesn't it? Feed the problem.
Totally. But the insight, drawing from Machik Labdrin, is that fighting these things often just makes them stronger. Resistance fuels them.
Whereas understanding them, finding out what they need underneath, that's what actually dissolves the conflict.
And Machik Labdrin had a really broad definition of demons. It wasn't just the obviously negative stuff.
No, she said it's basically anything that blocks our inner freedom. They can include our hopes, our obsessions, attachments, what Elaine calls gods.
Okay, gods too. So, good things can block our freedom.
Well, think about intense ambition, right? A desire for success, that's the god. But if it's tangled up with a paralyzing fear of failure, the demon, then you get what Allione calls a god demon.
Ah, I see. So the hope and the fear are totally locked together.
Exactly. They feed off each other, creating this constant tension, blocking that sense of ease or freedom.
Makes sense. Now, this method Allione developed, it comes from a Tibetan practice called Chud, right? Which sounds maybe intense.
Chud is a very profound practice, yeah. But Allian's genius was distilling its essence into a simple 5-step process.
And crucially, you don't need to be a Buddhist or know anything about Chud to do it.
Not at all. It's designed to be accessible. Its power is in its directness and its willingness to actually engage with the stuff we usually run from.
Which, as you said, feels so counterintuitive. Our instinct is usually fight or flight when faced with difficult feelings.
That monster slaying approach is just so deeply wired into our culture, isn't it?
Yeah. But does it really work long term, just fighting something?
Often, no. It just pushes the problem underground, maybe makes it morph into something else. It doesn't resolve the root issue.
Leon points out how this constant battle can actually make things worse, like trying to beat an addiction with just willpower.
Right. Without understanding why the addiction is there, what need it's trying to meet, however dysfunctionally. That's often a recipe for relapse.
Or how people talk about fighting an illness.
Mm-hmm. While medical care is obviously vital, sometimes that purely combative mindset can block other aspects of healing, like emotional processing or finding peace amidst the struggle.
So that's our mission for this deep dive, really, to explore this alternative path, not destroying our inner struggles, but engaging with them.
We're going to walk through Alliance 5 steps. It's a framework that might offer you a whole new perspective on your own inner conflicts.
And maybe lead to a bit more inner freedom, which sounds pretty good.
Definitely.
Okay, let's jump in. Step 1, finding the demon.
Right. And this isn't about thinking about the problem. It's about feeling it in your body.
Ah, okay. So grounding it physically. Why is that the starting point?
Because, often our bodies hold the emotional truth that our minds try to rationalize or avoid. It's about tapping into that physical wisdom.
Getting out of the head noise.
Exactly. Our bodies store tension, unprocessed emotions. It's all there. This step is about locating the physical epicenter of the issue.
So how do you actually do that?
Well, you can bring the difficult issue to mind, the thing that's bothering you, and then just notice, where does your awareness go in your body? Is there a tightness, a heaviness, a heat, a cold spot?
Or you could deliberately conjure up the feeling, like the stress or the anger, and scan your body.
Precisely. Scan your body and find where that emotion feels most concentrated, most intense. Every feeling has a home somewhere in the body.
Like stress might be tight shoulders or a clenched jaw.
Or Elione uses an example from the book, Kate, whose self-loathing felt like a literal cold, sharp sensation in her heart. Very specific.
So it's about getting really precise, not just I feel bad, but I feel a heavy knot right here in my stomach.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Is it pulsing? Is it sharp? Dull? Heavy? Getting that sensory detail is key.
because that moves it from an abstract idea to a concrete physical experience.
Which is where the transformation can start. You're working with the direct experience, not just the story about it.
Okay, makes sense. So we found the physical spot. Step 2 is, well, this is where it gets interesting, personifying the demon and asking what it needs.
Yeah, this could feel a bit unusual at first. You take that sensation you located.
The knot in the stomach, the tightness in the chest.
Right. And you imagine it moving out in front of you and taking on a form. Becoming some kind of living being.
A being. Like what?
It could be anything, really. An animal, a person, a mythical creature, even something abstract or an object that just feels alive somehow.
And you don't choose the form.
No, that's important. You let your unconscious offer the image. Don't censor it. Don't judge it if it seems silly or scary or cliche. Just allow whatever comes up.
Why personify it? What does that achieve?
It makes the energy tangible. Instead of this vague, difficult feeling inside, you now have something, well, something you can interact with.
Yeah.
It gives form to the formless so you can work with it.
Elion gives an example of a tree becoming this bent-over old woman, right?
Yeah. So just work with whatever shows up. And it helps if the form has like a face, eyes, maybe hands or appendages, something that allows for communication.
Okay, so the demon is there in front of you, personified. Then what?
Then you communicate. You ask it 3 specific questions. Out loud is often helpful, and in this precise order.
Okay, what are the questions?
First, what do you want from me? Second, what do you really need from me? And third, how will you feel if you get what you truly need?
Want, need, and how you'll feel if the need is met. Got it. And then comes a really crucial move.
Yes. Immediately after asking those questions, you switch places. Either physically stand where the demon was, or just imagine stepping into its form, into its being.
Whoa. Okay, so you become the demon temporarily.
Exactly. And from that perspective, you answer the questions you just asked.
Why is that switch so important?
It gives you direct insight into the demon's experience, its motivation, from the inside. You bypass your own usual defenses or interpretations.
So the demon might say it wants you to fail.
Right. That might be the answer to what do you want? But when you become it and ask what do you need, the answer might be something completely different, like maybe it needs to feel safe or acknowledged.
Or a stressed demon that seems to want nonstop work might actually need rest or security?
Precisely. It gets under the surface demand to the underlying, often unmet need. That's where the real information is.
And just understanding that need can start to shift things, I imagine.
It's the beginning of changing the relationship, moving from enemy to, well, something more complex, something with needs.
Which leads right into step 3, becoming the demon. We sort of covered this, but this step is about fully embodying it.
Yeah, really stepping into its skin, its perspective. After switching places, you fully inhabit that form you visualized and answer those 3 questions as the demon.
What do I want? What do I need? How will I feel if I get what I need from its point of view?
And this is often where you discover the demon's vulnerability. The anger might cover fear. The criticism might cover insecurity.
It's like seeing behind the mask.
Exactly. Elion shares examples, like a self-hate demon revealing it just desperately needs to be seen, to be acknowledged.
Or that workaholic demon, the one that looked like a smiling sun in Karen's story, actually needing love and affection.
Yeah, things you wouldn't expect from the surface presentation.
So it takes some empathy, doesn't it, to step into the shoes of something that feels like your enemy?
It really does. You have to be willing to feel what it feels, even if it's unpleasant. But that empathy, that willingness to understand its pain or fear, is incredibly transformative.
It breaks down that wall between me and it. It starts to feel like a part of you that's just hurting or unmet.
Exactly. You move from judgment to curiosity, from resistance to a kind of compassionate understanding.
Okay, so we found it, personified it, asked it questions, and even become it to understand its real needs. What's next?
Step 4. And this has 2 parts. Feeding the demon and then potentially meeting the ally.
Right. Let's start with the feeding. How does that work?
You switch back to your original position, facing the demon again. You recall the answer to that 3rd question. How will you feel if you get what you need?
Okay, so you know the feeling it's ultimately looking for.
Yes. Let's say the self-hate demon needed acknowledgement and said it would feel loved if it got that.
Right.
Then you imagine your own body dissolving into a nectar, like liquid light maybe, that embodies that feeling of love. Infinite, unconditional love.
Wow. Okay, so my body becomes the feeling the demon needs.
Exactly. And then you visualize offering this nectar, feeding it to the demon, pouring it out, letting the demon drink or absorb it until it feels completely, utterly satisfied.
So if the need was relaxation, the nectar is relaxation. If it was security, the nectar is security.
Precisely. You feed it the very quality it's lacking, the very feeling it needs, until it signals it's had enough, that it's totally content.
This is the paradoxical part again. Giving to the thing causing the problem.
But Elion's point, and Maki Glabran's wisdom, is that by meeting the underlying need, you neutralize the demon's power. You take away its reason for struggling.
Instead of fighting it, which just locks you in conflict.
Right. Think about it if its need is met. What's left for it to fight for? It's like taking the fuel out of the fire.
It reminds me of that Gandhi example Elion mentions, offering tea to adversaries.
Yes. Meeting them on a human level, acknowledging their needs indirectly, it can shift the whole dynamic. It's non-resistance in action, like Maciej Labdrun herself practiced.
Okay, so you feed the demon until it's totally satisfied. What happens then? Does it just disappear?
Sometimes it dissolves, sometimes it transforms. And this leads to the second part of step 4, meeting the ally.
The ally. Okay, what's that?
After the demon is fully satisfied, sometimes a different figure appears in its place or nearby. This is the ally.
And it's different from the demon.
Often, yes.
Yeah.
It represents the positive energy, the wisdom, the strength that was locked up in the conflict with the demon. Now that the need is met, that energy is liberated in a helpful form.
Like the self-hate demon becoming a gentle horse ally.
Exactly. Or a figure offering guidance, protection, or reassurance. Elion shares lots of examples. A wise mother figure, a powerful animal, a source of calm strength.
Do you always meet an ally?
Not necessarily. The feeding itself is the core transformation. But meeting the ally can be a really powerful bonus, like discovering an inner resource you didn't know you had.
So you integrate the ally's energy if one appears. Then what?
Then we come to the final step, step 5, resting in awareness.
Resting in awareness. What does that involve?
After the feeding and maybe meeting and integrating the ally, you let both the demon, in its transformed state, and the ally dissolve. They merge back into emptiness, into space.
Dissolve.
Yeah. And then you simply rest. You let your mind be in whatever state remains. Usually it's a sense of openness, calmness, relief.
So no goal, no trying to feel a certain way.
No. Just resting in the awareness itself, without the usual focus on me versus that problem. It's a pause from the ego's constant structuring of experience.
Alioni says even a few moments of this can be really beneficial.
Absolutely. It might feel like nothing much is happening, just quietness.
Yeah.
But that spaciousness, that resting in awareness rather than being caught by thoughts, is deeply integrating. It allows the change to settle.
Letting go of the whole drama.
Kind of, yeah. Resting in the underlying peace that's often obscured by our inner battles.
Wow. Okay, that's the 5 steps. It sounds surprisingly doable, actually.
It is. And the book is full of examples that really show how it works in practice. You mentioned Kate's self-hate demon becoming the gray horse ally after being fed love.
Right. And there was Sarah, whose demon just vanished after being fed love and acceptance.
Mm-hmm. Melissa worked with a demon of longing that turned into a happy baby, and then a wise motherly ally appeared.
There are stories about anorexia, phobias, even physical illness being approached this way. Jamie's anorexia demon, a witch, needed reassurance and safety, and transformed into a Greek goddess ally.
Rose worked with her cancer, personified as a raging red girl. When fed love and attention, it became a soft child, and Aphrodite showed up as an ally.
It's amazing how varied the demons and allies are.
And how addressing the need changes the dynamic. Fred worked with his HIV, feeding the demon consistently, and it became small and faint. And interestingly, his T-cell counts improved alongside the practice.
It's not presented as a magic cure, obviously, but as a way to change one's relationship to the challenge.
Exactly. Working with social phobia, panic attacks related to practical anxieties like a green card application, control issues rooted in childhood trauma.
Like Cindy's control demon linked to her alcoholic father, needing forgiveness and transforming into peace.
The applications seem really broad. Addiction, workaholism, PTSD, relationship conflicts, even breaking family patterns of violence or anxiety.
Elion mentions these Hydra demons, 2 complex issues with multiple heads.
Yeah, suggesting you can map them out, see the connections. And the god demons we talked about earlier, like the person torn between wanting freedom and fearing entrapment.
It even applies to groups, apparently, like organizational stress.
Yes, she gives an example of a stressed-out spa staff working with their collective demons. But the starting point is always personal, acknowledging our part first.
And she briefly mentions direct liberation, too, just turning into the emotion.
right? A more advanced practice, perhaps, of consciously embodying a strong emotion and watching it dissolve in pure awareness. But the 5 steps are the main accessible method.
It really covers a lot of ground.
It shows the versatility of this core idea. Meet
Hmm.
the need instead of fighting the manifestation.
So, as we wrap this up, the main takeaway really feels like this profound shift in perspective.
Absolutely. Moving away from that default monster slaying mode that often just exhausts us and doesn't work.
Towards a place of curiosity, understanding, and even compassion for the difficult parts of ourselves.
By asking what these parts truly need and then imaginatively providing it, we unlock a different kind of power. Not the power of force, but the power of integration and release.
It's ancient wisdom, like you said, but made incredibly relevant for the stresses and complexities of life today.
A practical tool for finding more freedom from the inside out.
So maybe something for you, the listener, to consider. What demons are active in your life right now? Big ones, small ones, annoying habits, deep-seated fears?
What might happen if, instead of pushing them away or battling them yet again, you tried asking them what they truly need?
And perhaps to leave you with a thought, echoing Maciej Glabjan and Solzhenitsyn, what if the very things you struggle with most, the parts you fear or dislike, actually hold the key? What if they aren't just problems, but signposts pointing toward your own liberation?